Welcome to Chamber Exchange, a TV show. My name is Tim Murray, President and CEO of the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. And Chamber Exchange, a TV show, is an opportunity for us to have conversations with our guests around issues of economic development and many of the companies and members of the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. The show is brought to you by Bank Hometown and St. Vincent Hospital, which are our sponsors, and I want to thank them for that. I'm very happy to have with us in our first segment Brian Westerlind, who's the CEO of Webster 5. Brian, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tim.
Yeah, well, Brian, fairly new in this role. It was announced last year in your capacity as a Chief Operating Officer that beginning July 1st of 2025, you would take over as CEO. Maybe you can kind of talk about that announcement, transition, and what it's like to be in the new role.
Yeah, no, that's right. Thanks for the opportunity. So exactly about a year ago, our former CEO, Don Doyle, announced his retirement, and the board named me his successor as CEO. So I've been with Webster 5 for 15 years now as the CFO, and the last 2 serving as the COO. So certainly a role familiar to me, organization familiar to me. So if I could just maybe take a minute and talk about Webster 5 as the organization.
Yeah, it's important, and maybe in that you could kind of differentiate. There's different types of banks, and you're
Sure.
a mutual bank.
Yes, yeah, being a mutual bank is really important to us, and by mutual we mean we're not stock owned in any way. We're owned by our depositors and our customers. It's really a difference that we have from other regional banks in the area. We have no owners, so we can't be bought, we can't be sold. We can't sell our bank, and every dollar that we earn goes right back into our business. So we've been around now since 1868, so over 150 years. I know the Chamber just is celebrating 150 years as well.
You got us beat. You got us beat.
Got you by a few years,
Yeah.
But that mutual structure really plays into that of just every profit that we earn goes right back into the business rather than trying to juice a stock price or pay back dividends.
And that's an important point for our listeners. Like, what is that? Might be, or excuse me, our viewers saying, what does that mean? Because you're not a stock. There isn't that pressure on a quarterly basis to make sure the stock's going up and trying to get a return. You can kind of think a little bit more strategically and long term on what's the best benefits for the bank and kind of the communities you serve.
Absolutely, you nailed it. We like to call ourselves really a mission-driven community bank, and with that mutual structure, we can really focus on what's best for customers, employees, and the community in every decision we make. And we're profitable. We need to be a financially sound institution, of course.
Because if you weren't, the state and federal bank examiners would have some issues, right?
That's right. That's right. So, happy that allows us to be such a strong community partner, and
I want to get into like some
Sure.
of the community connections and involvement that you and the bank have, but maybe just before we do that, I mean, it was interesting as you were kind of talking about your experience at Webster 5 first as a CFO and COO. You've been in banking and financial services before you got to Webster 5, and so in that role, just in the time that you have been in those various roles and the time that you've been at Webster 5, I mean, the banking industry has changed dramatically. And maybe you could just talk about technology, some of the regulatory changes, the pressures you're under.
Yeah, it's been big, and I think you're seeing a lot of consolidation in the industry because of that. A lot of regulatory demand, a lot of technology change. We're very proud that we've kept up with that through what I would call organic growth. I mentioned we've been around for over 150 years, have never done a merger in our organization, so purely all organic growth. But we've really, I think, done a nice job of transforming the bank in the last, call it 10, 15 years, in really a technology-driven bank, very digital-led focus. And it's really all about talent and technology is what it comes down to. And we've really added in both of those areas and continue to add. And that's really what it's all about.
Right. And with that growth, I mean, the size of the bank right now is...
Yeah, so we just crossed over $1.3 billion in total assets. So we're pretty healthy sized community bank. If you measure us against the other community banks in the area, as far as the locally based ones. We're one of the larger community banks in the region, and it allows us to really contribute a lot back to the community, and that's something that we're really passionate about.
Right. Well, in the interest of full disclosure, you are a member of the Worcester Regional Chamber
right.
of Commerce Board of Directors, but beyond that, some of the things that your leadership and team are involved with, some of the causes or philanthropic efforts that you support.
Yeah, so it really comes in, I would kind of put into 3 different buckets. The first is the financial realm. We're very proud to have the Webster 5 Foundation, where we give a lot of grants out to organizations. We're thankful that the Worcester Guardian recently picked up a nice story on a record amount of grants that we made in the last quarter from the foundation, over $100,000. So that certainly gets a lot of headlines and gets a lot of publicity, and it's very important. What I think is really the underplayed piece of that is all the time and talent that we put into organizations. You mentioned, being on your board. I'm also on the Worcester Community Action Council board, but when really
great organization,
outstanding organization that I'm very proud to be associated with.
A great leader, Mary Beth Campbell.
Yeah, Mary Beth Campbell, who I went to high school with.
Oh, there you go.
So, and that's what Worcester's all about, right? Those relationships, those connections that are usually pretty long term, and but really what we're proud of is, beyond certainly me, the entire Webster 5 team. It does just an outstanding job with serving on nonprofit boards, being at events, just being present in the community, allowing to give back. That's really the less told story, I think. We were recently at an event. Several other bankers there talking about, hey, we're trying to get out to more events, and one of the other bankers looked over and said, "You guys are everywhere," and I thought was just a great compliment to hear of our team,
right?
Because they really are everywhere. They're at events, at just volunteering efforts, and just all the time that they put in is really a significant story.
Yeah, well, that in terms of time and some of the foundation dollars are incredibly important. But the other element of it is kind of letting people know about the services that you provide, and every day, we've got 2,100 members at the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce with our partner affiliates, and 80% plus are small businesses, probably 10 employees or less, and empowering them with with information about how working with a trusted banker, coming up with a plan, can just make the ebbs and flows that inevitably come with a business so much easier.
Yep.
Having that contact, to trust those relationships, that's what they're doing when they're out in the community.
That's right, and that's a big area of focus for us strategically going forward. But small business, really a bread and butter, sort of piece of our business that we serve a ton of those same small businesses, and we really have an opportunity, I think, to serve a lot more. As you think about, you talked about technology changes. There's a lot of online companies that have made things very easy for folks to just go right online and apply for a loan. So we have that in place as well. Very easy to go into web5.com, click apply here, and get a small business loan. But what we're proud of is more of that relationship focus, and it's been very rewarding for me to see, just in my time and even before my time, just seeing a small business start and then grow throughout the year. So initially you're providing them capital, and we certainly do that. But then in their later years, they need more of a growth loan or a loan to build out an office space, and have to provide all those services.
With all due respect to AI and bots and great websites, there's nothing beats a conversation with a knowledgeable person.
We hear it all the time of people that end up coming to us and saying, "I wish I had done this years ago. Mm-hmm. I wish I'd established a relationship with a banker years ago, and had them on my team all these years." So we hear that quite a bit.
So we mentioned technology, but that kind of human contact and physical presence is important. We just have just under a minute left, but
sure.
you potential Auburn branch, an opening?
Yeah, so we just reopened our Auburn branch at 400 Southbridge Street in Auburn, right across from the Auburn Mall. Love that location. We've been there for probably about 30 years now. Building was very tired and needed some work. We ended up just knocking the whole thing down, building out a new state-of-the-art branch with all the technology features and customer focus. We're very proud as part of that as well. We partnered with a organization called Art Lifting that pairs individuals with disabilities looking for opportunities for artwork in a professional, being paid for a professional sense, and we have some features there in that branch
that's cool.
that I thought came out really well.
Great, great. Well, Brian, we're out of time in our first segment, but thanks for being with us, and thanks for all the good work that Webster 5 does.
These days, you've got your hands full in life. That's why we help you bank simply and securely with tools like Face ID and Touch ID. It's why we make it easy to make purchases on the go and get cash back while you're at it. Why we help you quickly deposit checks wherever you are. And it's why we lend a hand with sending and receiving money right from your phone. So even when you're on the move, you can manage your finances. Bank Hometown. Unlock your potential.